Hello again, everybody. The title of this video, What If Jehovah's Witnesses Are Right?, is a question a lot of people ask. Even some who've left the organization decades ago have that nagging question, what if they're right? And so I want to start off by saying there's no doubt in my mind that Jehovah's Witnesses are a man-made, high-control group with no divine backing whatsoever. But for the sake of argument, let's say that they're right. That despite all of the harmful practices they're involved in, many of which I've seen firsthand, Jehovah has chosen them to be his people, and everything else is just part of a global conspiracy to spread lies about them. Suppose that very soon, God is going to kill all other people at Armageddon, and only Jehovah's Witnesses and those who support them will live forever on a paradise earth. Well, what then? Even if all that were true, that wouldn't change a thing. For me, if the prerequisite for having God's approval is being involved in a group that has caused immeasurable harm around the globe for decades, then I don't want it. I don't think it's worth that price. I won't abandon human decency and love for some prize for the future. Jehovah's Witnesses often argue that, leadership might be imperfect, but the Israelites often had imperfect leaders too, and they were still God's people. And I don't argue that. The Bible does say that that's true, right? That's the Bible's narrative, that there were good kings and bad judges, and when these bad kings were in power, the nation suffered. And I do think, frankly, that just as it's unfair that generations of Jehovah's Witnesses have suffered while waiting for the governing body to make adjustments, I think it is unfair that generations of Israelites suffered waiting for leadership to change. But still, what do you think? When there was a wicked leader, so for example, the Bible describes wicked leaders as promoting idol worship. If the leader was promoting idol worship, the king or the judge, do you think the Israelites were expected to blindly obey them and they too should worship idols? Or did they have a God-given responsibility to oppose the leadership and keep serving God in the way he wanted them to serve? I don't think it's a very strong argument to say that Jehovah's Witnesses' blind obedience of the governing body parallels what happened with the Israelites. But my point still stands too. If these were God's people and God was asking them to be involved in unloving activities, I couldn't be a part of that group. So I'll give you an example. In Deuteronomy 20, verse 10 to 16, I'll just summarize it, but you can read it yourself in your Bible. Deuteronomy 20, starting at verse 10, the Israelites are given instruction to go out to cities, ask for peace. If they say yes to peace, then you can take them in for forced labor. They can serve you. If they won't have peace, kill all the men. But the women and the children and the livestock you can plunder. But then on the other hand, for the designated cities, the closed cities, verse 16 says, you must not allow any breathing thing to live. If this was really what God wanted his people to do, then I think his people should have been ashamed of their God. And I know people will come out saying, well, that was a different time. These people were wicked. God had already judged them. So on. I know that's what I was indoctrinated to believe. That's what I taught for decades. I know what you're going to say. And I'm sorry. I really don't think there's any way to justify this sort of extermination of people and having people go and kill each other. But that's what I was taught, right? From birth on, I was indoctrinated to believe that Jehovah created humans, so we all owe him everything. We have to obey him no matter what, and whatever he says is right, and whatever he says is wrong is wrong. If he says people should be killed, they should be killed. If he says you should kill them, then you should kill them. That kind of extreme obedience. But now I see how flawed that really is. Like my children, of course, they owe their lives to me and my wife. They wouldn't have been born without us. But should they blindly obey absolutely everything we say? If we abuse them, should they still serve us and assume we know what's right? Well, of course not. So, if Jehovah's Witnesses are right, if the God that they portray Jehovah as being is really the creator, I don't want anything to do with their God. I would much, much rather live one lifetime being loving than earn an eternity by being cruel. So what if Jehovah's Witnesses are right? Well, it doesn't matter. Thanks so much again for watching. Bye for now.